Hi, and thank you for joining me for part 4 of my Debunking Christian Prophecies video series. We are debunking the 324 prophecies that were supposedly fulfilled by Jesus, one by one. My name is Rabbi Asher Meza, and we are by prophecy number 8. Genesis 14:18, a king also, supposedly fulfilled in Hebrews 7:2. Here we see that Christians use the same verse that they used in prophecy number 7, Genesis 14:18, to try to conjure up another prophecy that's not really there. Now, really, this prophecy was debunked in my previous video that covered prophecy number 7, which dealt with the concept of Jesus being a priest after Melchizedek. Obviously, if Jesus could not be a priest in the order of Melchizedek, he can't be a king in that order either. But actually, these 324 so-called prophecies do not get sillier than this one. The verse in Genesis 14:18 states, "Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High." Now, even Christians would have to agree that this is just a dishonest attempt to squeeze out another prophecy from the previous one. Remember, the basis of the previous prophecy was built on the verse in Psalm 110 verse 4 that states, "You're a priest, not king, forever in the order of Melchizedek." So by just stating that Melchizedek was also a king does not give Christians the right to call it another prophecy, and especially a prophecy that was fulfilled. But actually, the New Testament shows that Jesus in his lifetime was not a king and banked any claim that he was on his second coming, which has not happened yet. So you can't call it a prophecy that was fulfilled. Now, I'm not against people believing out of faith that Jesus will be a king coming in the clouds of heaven, as long as they acknowledge that this is merely just a statement of faith and clearly, certainly not a prophecy that has been fulfilled. So if you want to freshen up on how Jesus does not walk in Melchizedek's shoes, watch my previous video, part 3 of the series. Furthermore, in the New Testament verse that supposedly fulfills the prophecy, it states nothing about Jesus' kingship. Hebrews 7:2 states, "And Abraham gave him a tenth of everything." First, his name, Melchizedek, means king of righteousness. Then also king of Salem, which means king of peace. Though this verse I can accept teaches that Melchizedek is a king. However, it doesn't really point to Jesus being one. So because this supposed prophecy dishonestly crept its way into the count, it gets rejected. Friends, we cheapen the meaning of the word prophecy when we use it loosely, or in this case, falsely. So this is E, is not a prophecy and was not fulfilled by Jesus. And F, argument not consistent biblically. Prophecy number 9. Genesis 14:18, the Last Supper foreshadowed, supposedly fulfilled in Matthew chapter 26, verse 26 through 29. Here again we see that Christians are utilizing the same verse, Genesis 14:18, and are attempting to extract yet another prophecy from it. Again, Genesis 14:18 reads, "Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High." This was supposedly fulfilled in Matthew 26 through 29. While they were eating, Jesus took bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat. This is my body." Then he took the cup, gave thanks, and offered it to them, saying, "Drink it all. This is the blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on until the day when I drink it anew with you in my Father's kingdom." Now, Christians make the claim that because there was bread and wine in both meals, this is in some weird way speaking about the future Last Supper. There's just one thing I really have to make clear first. One huge advance that the Christian world has made in the last century was the attempt to uncover Christianity's Jewish roots. The idea that Jesus and his disciples were Jews who lived Jewish lives with Jewish rituals. Now, the reason I mention this is because any Christian who is familiar with Passover or even a Sabbath meal knows that the practice of sanctifying a holy day or event with wine, and bread is not exclusive to Christianity. In other words, this custom is a Hebrew or Judaic one that Jesus and his followers were deeply familiar with. And even our Christians agree that the Last Supper was most likely a Passover Seder. The reason I say most likely is because the Gospels sort of contradict themselves on this issue. So if Jews have been having Seder since they left Egypt, why couldn't everyone just assume that this verse is not a prophecy foreshadowing the Last Supper? I'll tell you why. Because whoever compiled these 324 prophecies didn't know and didn't care to know anything about Jewish customs, and thus they erred greatly. Christians have been so used to looking at what they call the Old Testament with New Testament glasses instead of the other way around that they've constructed their own biblical history where Jesus is apparent on every page. The reason that I feel that debunking these 324 prophecies is such a holy work is because these so-called prophecies is one of the main reasons so many are attracted to Christianity, and I would rather them come to Judaism, or if they insist, remain Noahides. The rhetoric that missionaries are known to employ goes something like this. It would be impossible for one man to fulfill all these prophecies, but Jesus did. So he would have to be the Messiah. And even more, God himself. Chas v'shalom. Actually, another reason people become Christians is to fill their hunger for meaning and direction in a world that's morally deficient. Friends, I'm talking to you today. You became a Christian because you didn't think Judaism was an option. Well, it is. And today you can decide to live by God's precious commandments. Convert and be counted as a 100% full Jew. So this is not a prophecy, not at all, and consider it debunked.